Hey, Rob Stats Guerrera, you know him from Niner Nation and from all of the different content shows that are on that network. So, but let's get it started. You know, Niners are in the NFC Championship game. What are we doing? We're just hitting the music. Once again, it is Peter Lucas. I got with me Rob Stats Guerrera. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. And before we get started, make sure you hit your like button. Make sure that you hit the bell so you can get notifications for when I go live. Also, make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend so we can be friends every week. But Rob, so excited to have you on with me today. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, because you have your own YouTube show now and or YouTube channel now, and then you're all over the socials also. So why don't you tell them where they can find you?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. The nice thing, you only have to remember one thing: Stats on Fire. That's where you can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, everything. Every social there is now, I feel like that's where I am, and you can always find me at Stats on Fire.
Awesome. And so Rob, we did it. The 49ers did it. They got to the NFC Championship game, and what is this, 3 out of 4 years now? And I mean, as unlikely as it was, considering how they started the season, unlikely as it was to be on your third string quarterback, and not only that, for him to be a rookie in the 7th round, Mr. Irrelevant at that. I mean, what was your level of worry in this Cowboys game?
Going into the game, I said that I was as confident as I have ever been as a 49ers fan. I just didn't feel like it was going to be as close of a game as it ended up being. I thought the offense was going to be able to move the ball. I thought the defense was going to shut down the Cowboys, which pretty much happened. And I wasn't worried. Now, once they got into the game, and I didn't realize how fast the Cowboys defense was. I guess I underestimated them. Brock Purdy was under pressure on almost 50% of his dropbacks. So that kind of changed everything. But going into the game, I was super, super confident. That is not how I am feeling this week.
I'm right there with you. It was the weirdest feeling watching a 49er game and not being on the edge of your seat, waiting for the bad things to happen. I was just calm and collected, almost like Purdy's been since he's been starting. It was really refreshing, honestly, to not have to worry. And it could be the opponent, but I agree with you as far as how their defense looked. I think the main thing for me was the tackling and them wanting to come out. Obviously, they were making an effort to come out physical, and they were not going to let the 49ers have their normal yak. And they did a good job of that, especially in the first half. But yeah, it was a really great game. And even though it was a great, I just wasn't worried. I wasn't worried at all. It was just really surprising. I mean, I've been watching the Niners for going on 35 years now, and and yeah, not since the 90s have I not been worried. but yeah, how you just talked about the Eagles. How worried are you about this Eagles team and the matchup issues that they give us?
Extremely worried, like legitimately already thinking about it, scared, kind of worried. And I'm not worried about the Eagles rushing attack, which, not saying it's not good, because it is. And Jalen Hurts is going to break off some runs because he's very good at it. I'm worried about their deep passing attack because that's the one spot on this defense consistently where you have been able to hurt them. The Niners have 8 pass plays allowed of 50 yards or more on the season. That's the most in the NFL. Jalen Hurts can throw it deep. Everybody's bringing up that pass he had to Quez Watkins when the last time the Niners played the Eagles, where he got down to like the 5-yard line and then didn't end up scoring. But in my head, all I see is Jalen Hurts scrambling around and just launching that thing deep to A.J. Brown, who ate the 49ers breakfast, lunch, and dinner the last time they saw him when he was on the Titans. That's actually what has me the most nervous going into the game.
Yeah, and normally I would be worried about that aspect. I will say that I do think that these quarterbacks, the quarterback that he had in Tennessee is completely different than Jalen Hurts. I really feel like they're going to really try and almost do what the 49ers do and just run. They're going to try and bully us with the run with that offensive line. And Jalen Hurts wants to run at the end of the day. That's what he wants. That's what they want to do with him. I don't think that they don't use AJ Brown quite like Tennessee did. And it could just be the fact that the quarterback's name for Tennessee,
Ryan Tannehill.
Ryan Tannehill he's not the same. He's not going to be run. They're not looking to do QB options with Ryan Tannehill. They're just not going to do that. So I feel like it's just Jalen Hurts. It's almost like they're going to use him on play action. They're going to use him in just different ways than Tennessee. So I'm not as worried. I don't know if that even makes any sense, but to not be worried about AJ Brown, but it's just a different kind of worried. I think that he will get his. I'm actually more worried about Devontae Smith, just because of his route running ability and his speed and his ability, because they're going to be cheating up. I got to believe that the 49ers are going to end up having to cheat up in this game because they're going to try and run the ball. But how do you feel about that?
Well, the weird thing about the 49ers defense is that if you go back and look, whether it's Devontae Adams or DK Metcalf or Mike Evans or whoever you want to pick, the Niners defense has allowed the number one wide receiver to kind of go off against them pretty much all year long. The weird thing about that is it still hasn't really mattered. They still don't really let you score that many touchdowns, and no one else really gets anything. The problem is the Eagles have 2 of those guys, like you said, in not only A.J. Brown, but Devontae Smith. So it's going to be a problem. And I know that Deommodore Lenoir has been playing a lot better lately, and he absolutely has. But he has not been tested like he's going to be tested this week for sure.
That's true, because it's not going to be – he doesn't have a Gallup on the field to rest this week. Because, not to say that Gallup's not good, but I think he's taken a step back a little bit from the injury that he had. But it's unfortunate. But my guy Damien says, are the Niner players responsible for all the broken TVs, or was it all the Dallas Cowboys players? I don't know if you saw all those the videos on Twitter.
I don't understand.
Crazy.
Okay, you're mad at the Cowboys, but now you can't watch anything. You still end up with a broken TV. I don't know. It's not logical, I guess, but I've been mad. I mean, look, we've lost NFC Championship games. The last 2 Super Bowls the 49ers are in, they lost, and they should have won both of them. I've never had the urge to punch my own television.
Yeah, I must not have the right job. To have enough money to just be able to split TVs in half and run them over with my car. But I guess I need to level up. But yeah, that's there's always those fans in every fan base, but it just seems to be, especially we like to watch it when it's Cowboy fans. So the meltdowns are great.
It felt good to beat the Cowboys, though, didn't it? You can't have your season end. Look, maybe for a lot of younger fans, they don't realize I'm old enough to remember when the Cowboys were kicking the 49ers rear ends in the 90s, back-to-back years, and just you would wait all season long because you knew it was going to come down to Niners-Cowboys in the NFC Championship game, and then they would destroy us, and I'll never forget it. So it feels damn good to send the Cowboys packing for 2 straight years. I don't care how many years after the fact it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I still have the 94 NFC Championship game on VHS.
Nice.
And it's in my garage somewhere, but but yeah, I used to play that thing over and over just because it was the one time the one time that we got
Yep.
past them, and it felt so amazing. Yeah, I bought a Jerry Rice jersey that year just out of commemoration, and I bring it out maybe I should stop bringing it out because the only time I bring it out is for Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah.
And ever since we haven't won one. So
You see
but
that jersey there?
yeah,
I stopped wearing it. I got it for the playoff run in 2019, and I had it on, and I was great, and they lost the Super Bowl, and it's been up on the wall ever since. And
yeah,
that's where it be staying until we win another one.
absolutely. But so Cowboy game. Let's talk about a little bit about that game. What were your keys for this game, and who was your best player for both sides?
Both sides of the ball for the Niners, or one
Both
from the Niners, one
for
from the.
the one for the Niners, one for the Cowboys.
Okay, so I thought the biggest thing was number one, Brock Purdy not turning the ball over. This 49er team is no stranger to struggling quarterbacks in the playoffs. We've seen that with Jimmy Garoppolo multiple times. The difference was Garoppolo's struggles were no touchdowns, 1 to 2 turnovers, whereas Brock Purdy's struggles could still get some field goals and we're not turning the ball over. And that made all the difference in the world in this game because we saw it. The Cowboys had the 2 turnovers. The interceptions by Dak were massive in the game. And the 49ers defense luckily was able to hold the Cowboys to a field goal after the Ray McLeod fumble. But I thought that Brock just not ever making a bad situation worse was huge in the game. Best player from each side, I think I got to go with Fred Warner. He's just,
I agree.
There are no words. He's outside the outside hash mark, and he's covering CeeDee Lamb down the middle of the field on the opposite side of the line, and he's doing a great job of it. That's mutant ability right there from Fred Warner, taking things away. Like Dak Prescott is under center on that play, and people are saying, oh, he should have seen T.Y. Hilton. And it's like, no, Dak is under center. He's looking. He knows that Fred is going to have to be responsible for his best receiver in CeeDee Lamb. He sees CeeDee Lamb on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, and the middle of the field is open. I'm sure he thinks this is exactly what we want. Like I don't think he ever envisioned that Fred Warner was going to be able to get back to disrupt that play, but Fred is amazing, and he did. So I'll go with Fred Warner on one side, and then I have to go with Micah Parsons on the other. Nick Bosa is great. But Nick Bosa is great in a much different way than Micah Parsons.
Yes.
Micah Parsons threw Mike McGlinchey out of the club, had him literally horizontal to the field. And Mike McGlinchey is not a small human being. He's 6'6", 300 pounds, and Micah tossed him aside with one arm, Reggie White style. That was unbelievable to me. He physically is on a level that I don't know that anybody else in the entire league is on.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a guy hip tossed in an NFL game before. Like that's for all my WWE people out there. Like, yeah, that was a straight up hip toss. And it's crazy that Micah Parsons. I mean, I think as much as the Cowboy fans talk, Micah Parsons did some talking before this game, but he backed it up in my estimation. Yes. He backed up everything that he said. Like now his teammates didn't necessarily and I would say that the defense as a whole played well. I mean, they held a team that had been scoring 35 plus a game for the last 6 or 7 games to 19 points. So I mean, they did that. I feel like they did their job. The other side of the ball just didn't come up big for them. But yeah, as far as my best player for the game, I absolutely agree with you about Fred Warner. Fred Warner is a beast. He's an alien. He is he was impossible. It's impossible for a person to be everywhere all at once. But that's what it seemed like happened. It was just everywhere the ball was, Fred was there. They hiked the ball. Fred's already in the backfield to trip up their running back. It was just And Hufanga had a couple of those plays too, but I just felt like Fred really exemplified the leadership that he's been showing all season. I felt like he really showed leadership this season, and that game kind of brought it all together for me. And then on the Cowboys side, we talked about Micah Parsons. I agree. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Micah Parsons also. I do want to give a shout out to CeeDee Lamb. He did do his thing. He did do the best that I felt like he could do in that situation. The 49ers defense was on one in this game. They kind of brought the physical nature, and they brought the unstoppableness, so if that's a word, back to the tape. And I don't think anybody was expecting the amount of defense that they put on in that game, because I don't think anybody was expecting Lenore to get another pick. And he was just, I thought he did a really good job. He got hit for the one long play, but you're going to give up something, so it's going to happen. It's the NFL. But I thought they kept all their mistakes to a minimum, very minimal penalties. It was a clinic. I felt like it was a defensive clinic, and I'm really, really excited to see what they do against the Eagles. But how about your worst player for both sides?
Ooh, boy. Worst player for the 49ers. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I really can't. I know McGlinchey got like tossed to the side, but I thought he held up as best he could. I don't know that I can give out a worst player for the 49ers. I'm having a hard time with this one. I think everybody did a pretty good job. There wasn't a go. I mean, I guess Ray McLeod, because he had the fumble, but he also had a 52-yard return the next time he touched the football. So now, granted, the fumble would have been far more costly if the Cowboys had scored a touchdown. I don't know that 52-yard return would make up for it, but if I had to give it to somebody, I'd give it to him. Worst player for the Cowboys, it's a toss-up between Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott. Although I don't think I could give it to Zeke because he's just washed up. Like, it's over.
It's not his fault.
The tread is off the tire. Like, he's just got nothing left. They ran him into the ground. It's not his fault. It happens to every running back. With him, it just happened a little bit earlier because he had so much volume early in his career. So I guess I'll give it to Dak, because if you can't beat the other team's third string rookie quarterback in the playoffs, like, what are they paying you $40 million a year for? And he was terrible in the game. Those 2 turnovers were brutal turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
He had one good throw to CeeDee Lamb.
Should have been like 4.
Yeah, he had a throw to Greenlaw. It should have been a walk-off pick 6 on the drive where they absolutely had to have it at the end of the game. He throws it right to Greenlaw, like, immediately. He was bad in the game, and there were a lot of Cowboy fans afterwards just tearing him to shreds, and I get it. You're emotional after the game. There's a lot of that. But at the same time, I'm looking at him, and I'm like, that's the guy I got to pay $45 million to next year? I don't know. That's dicey.
Yeah, it absolutely was Dak for me on the Cowboys side. Like I said, like we just talked about, it should have been 4 picks, and he was just terrible. He was just terrible. And I talked about this on my preview show, but it seems to me like Dak puts a lot of pressure on him. He puts too much pressure on himself. Like, he feels the need to make plays instead of just running the offense. Because when he first came in the league, he was a game manager. They were just running the ball, and he was a game manager. Well, somewhere along the line, somebody tapped him on the shoulder and told him, "Hey, you're supposed to be the guy." And ever since then, he's been trying to be the guy, but that's just not him. It's just not. And I think that I partially blame him, but I also partially blame the coaching staff. You have to know what you have. They know that he's not that guy. You can't tell me that they don't. And
they know it now.
You need to call. Yeah, they definitely know it now. But you've got to game plan as such and stop asking him to do things that he's not equipped to do. That's my problem with a lot of coaches in this league. They expect these guys to be franchise quarterbacks, and which I hate the term franchise quarterback, but they expect these guys to be world beaters, and not every quarterback is a world beater. Sometimes you have to work around their deficiencies, but not that I want to give, I don't want to make excuses for Dak at all. Like it was just it was a bad game. But on the other side, I would say the worst player who, and I would say it's got to be Ray, just because he's the only one that made a mistake.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, everybody else did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. Even McGlinchey had a really good game, and he was fired up the whole game. And it's so yeah, I find it really hard to give him a worse game, but yeah, it has to be like the one thing that we could not have was a turnover, and on special teams, and that's what happened. The one thing that we were worried about with Ray McCloud before the season started was fumbling. You can't give it to me in the playoffs. I'm ready to kill you at that point.
And he hadn't lost a fumble all year up to that
season,
point.
and you waited till right now.
That was what I was worried about with him, because he has a lot of fumbles in his career. I think he's got like 11 or 12 fumbles in his career. And when they signed him, I was stunned, because Kyle Shanahan has literally come out and said the only thing he wants from his returners is to just get the ball back to the offense. He doesn't care if you ever get a big return. All he wants is that you catch the ball and hang on to the ball. And they signed Ray McCloud, the one guy who all he does is fumble. And yet, up until Sunday, I should say, he had been fine. But this was the first lost fumble all year.
Yeah, and Kyle said before the season started, they had plans for Ray. Like he wasn't just going to be a special teams guy, and but I think they weren't expecting to have CMC on the team either in the beginning of the year.
True.
So I think that kind of adjusted the game plan a little bit because he was much more a part of the offense early on, but yeah, I just I hate that for Ray. I mean, you can't argue with the CMC trade by now. Like it is what it is. That was probably the best thing for multifactorial reasons. That was probably the best thing that happened to the 49ers this season was getting CMC. For one thing, I mean, it is CMC. The other part is it forced Kyle to use his running backs in the passing game, which he never used to do. And and you see it's not just him. They throw it to Elijah Mitchell now, and they throw it to they've even thrown it to Jordan Mason a couple times. So it is what it is. But Eagles game that's coming up. What part of this Eagles offense is the most dangerous for the 49ers?
I think it's the deep passing game. Like I said, it's all dangerous. That's the problem. The Eagles are equipped to win any kind of game that they need to play. If they need to run it on the ground and grind it out, they can do that with Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. If they need to put up 40 points, they'll just go bombs away with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. Like any kind of game the Eagles need to play. If they need to hold the other team out of the end zone all day, well, great. They've got 4 guys on their defensive line that have 10 plus sacks. Like they're just freaking good everywhere. So the deep passing game scares me the most. But the real thing that scares me is I don't know where you attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's where I guess the what I'm looking at is Jalen Hurts coming. He says he's not 100% with his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not seeing it, but
it looks pretty damn good.
But could that be a factor in this game? In this game is that the 49ers with their defense, because I do think the 49ers defense is way better than the New York Giants. So I'm wondering because the 49ers haven't given up a 70-yard rusher all season. Could they bottle up that running attack? And then it becomes more of a how do we keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket aspect so that he can have to throw with that bum shoulder. But I guess my question is like is that deep passing game going to be their most dangerous thing? I think really it's going to be how the Jalen Hurts running off of their running game, because they're going to be running with their running backs. But the 49ers have never had an answer for a mobile quarterback. And we played the Atlanta Falcons earlier in the season, and Marcus Mariota didn't really do too much passing, but he did get a whole bunch of yards on the ground. And that's the one thing that worries me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think the 49ers philosophy is kind of like, yeah, we'll give up some deep passes. Like, you're going to get a couple of those on us, but you're only going to get one or two. And if you want to set up and try all day to throw deep passes, guess what? That plays right into our hands, because we're going to rush the passer and we're going to disrupt you and cause problems. I think that's sort of the Niners philosophy. But they really haven't been getting home as often lately. They only had 4 quarterback hits against the Cowboys last week. Nick Bosa's gone without a sack. I think it's in like 3 of his last 4 games or 4 out of his last 5, something like that. And the truth is, while they may be able to provide pressure, like, most of the sacks come from Bosa. The rest, Bosa has 18.5 on the regular season. I think the next leader was like Ebukam with like 4.5. It's not like the Eagles, where you've got 4 guys with 10 sacks. So that's going to be the difference in the game. If the Eagles recognize the weakness in the Niners defense and try to throw it deep, it's going to come down to how often can the 49ers get pressure with that front 4. And we know the Eagles have a very good offensive line.
That is the key for me, is their offensive line. Their offensive line is easily the best in the league. And I just, for them to get Lane Johnson, he's just coming back off of injury. For them to get him back, I think it just kind of solidified that offensive line. And now it's going to be really hard to get to Jalen Hurts. I'm interested to see how that matchup turns out, because, like you said, they're not getting a lot of sacks. I mean, the 49ers they got 44. I mean, it was less than they got last year, I believe. And then, but even if it wasn't less than last year, they just don't seem to be teams seem to be making a concerted effort to get the ball out before it even comes to that.
Yes.
But the one thing about them is they have this thing about just getting close and just putting a hand out and towards the guy, and it just affects their passing. And I think I remember seeing a video about that's a technique that Chris Kosurik talks about all the time, is just putting hands, always reaching out, because you never know when he's going to try and try to bring the ball up, and it knocks the ball out, or whatever the case is. But I feel like it also serves as a way to get added pressure, just to make the quarterback feel like they're there. Do you think that that's even like a thing or a factor?
Yeah, I think like there's pressure, and then there's, I don't want to call it simulated pressure, but it's like fake pressure. But the quarterback thinks that people are closer than they are. Anything you can do to get them a little uncomfortable. Like, people, I think sometimes people think that quarterbacks drop back and they check the rush and they're not specifically looking at the rush. They're using their peripheral vision to see color. How close is this red blob coming to smash me in the face? Or white blob, I guess, because the Niners will be wearing white. But so if you can do stuff like you're talking about, and like Kosurik is teaching there, reach your hand out, make yourself appear closer or bigger than you are, it's going to make a difference. And I know that Jalen Hurts has had a really good year, but I do think that he is not as good a pure thrower of the football than, say, Dak Prescott or some of the other quarterbacks in the league. So anything you can do to disrupt him and make him have to use, let's call it, his worst skill, right? Kind of play left-handed, so to speak, you've got to do, because that's your path to victory if you're on the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree. And the way I see the 49ers, the only way that I see the 49ers stopping this offense is really, it just comes down to well, I mean, it does come down to pressure, but I mean, it's really just stopping the run, because I think if they can't stop the run, they're just going to stay in those And it sounds silly of me to even say, do they stop the run, because they haven't allowed a 70-yard rusher all season. But we've seen a few times this towards the end of the season that they've given up a few. You saw a few chinks in the armor as far as the run defense. And with this offensive line, I feel like that it could be an issue in this game. And because I definitely don't think that D'Amico wants to give extra resources to stopping the run. And but I just feel like that there's got to be another way that because if they're gonna go for the long passes, like, I get it. Do you think Goddard is going to be a bigger deal in this game?
He could be, but I'll take my chances with Dallas Goedert going against Fred Warner any day of the
That's
week.
true.
Like, I'll take my
That's true.
chances of Fred Warner going against anybody. I do think that's interesting, though. He, like, in Philadelphia, the talking point is, well, Kittle's better, but it's not by that much. And, they're kind of even. I wonder if George comes into the game like, oh, yeah? Did you not see what I just did against the Cowboys? Did you see that 30-yard juggling catch I had? I'll show you. And I wonder if George comes into the game a little fired up. And I would love it because he gives that team so much juice when he catches the ball. It's just different. For some reason, I feel like when the offense gets going, the first play is a pass to Kittle. And he gets up and he does the no fear celebration. And then all of a sudden they break off another like 8-9 yard run. And all of a sudden the train starts moving down the tracks and they pick up momentum. I feel like that always starts with George Kittle. And I always wonder if he's going to be like, all right, you want to talk about Dallas Goedert? Let me show you who's still the master here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, of course, Kittle's going to be a big part of the game, whether it be blocking, whether it be pass catching. I just look at him as once again, a leader, like on the, and he keeps, I feel like as excited as he gets, he kind of keeps pretty calm. Like you always see him in the huddle, kind of patting him on the shoulder pads, like getting him, like almost reminding him, hey, we're playing a game. We're playing a game.
Did you see Did you see the clip of Juice on the sidelines with the iPad, like talking with Brock? I feel like the veteran leadership on this team is really helping him sort of navigate these waters.
It's awesome, and it speaks to the culture. It speaks to the culture that Shanny has kind of built on this team. This team is not just, a lot of teams have just a quarterback. They're a quarterback. The quarterback is the leader. Quarterback kind of runs. You see it with Brady. You see it with a couple other guys, Josh Allen's. Like, this is a complete team. And I think that because how the 49ers have won in the past with it not being all about the quarterback and it being a complete team, that it brings it gives them that carte blanche to just hey, let me talk to you about this. This is what I saw. Like, this is something that we could use later on. And they're just working together in the offense and coming up with the answers together instead of it just being about the quarterback telling them where to be. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, I agree with you. And I didn't hear this firsthand. So someone told me about this and I need to go back and watch it. But somebody told me that Juice gave an interview with, I think it was NBC Sports Bay Area after the game, where essentially they came into the game looking to run outside zone. Like, that was their plan. That was their bread and butter. And the Cowboys were just all over it, just dominating it in the first half. And so at halftime, according to Juice, again, and I didn't see this interview, this is what somebody told me, but that Juice and players went to Kyle and they were like, look, it ain't working. It ain't going to work. We got to change it up in the second half. And he said in the second half, they went to more gap plays, more power plays, and up along the interior of the offensive line, and they ran for 86 yards after halftime. Like, but that speaks to the culture that you're talking about, right? Like, a good idea can come from anywhere, and everybody, that communication, the lines of communication are open, and it allows them to be their best selves, where maybe some other organizations, the coach tells the fullback to shut the hell up, or the fullback doesn't even feel like he's empowered to speak up, like it's not like that everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. It's even Debo last year telling Kyle, hey, can you just give me the ball? Give me the ball and I'm going to score. and Kyle actually listening. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. And yeah, it just this team, I love this team so much just because of all the, just not the characters on this team, but just I love the culture. I love the culture of these guys. They really, it seems like they love playing together. And that, just that part, they're always there to pick another guy up. They're always, if something happens, somebody twists Debo's ankle, the whole team, including the coach, is is
Kyle's
out
out
there on
there.
the field.
Yeah, he's throwing shoulder blocks to Seahawks
Yeah.
players. Did you see that?
Yeah, that it's nuts. Like, you're not going to see that on any other team. It's just yeah, the toughness comes from everywhere, and that's real toughness, because we saw some fake tough guy moves by the Cowboys early on in the game, and I mean, I identified that right away. I was like, they're just trying a little too hard in the beginning, but yeah. So what should the game plan be for the 49er offense against this Eagle defense? Because we talked about them kind of having to adjust on the fly and like all that kind of stuff. Do you think that's going to have to happen in this game?
I think in Kyle's perfect world, it would be very similar to the Packers NFC Championship game of 2019. I think he would love to run, and not because he's terrified of Jimmy Garoppolo, which I think he was kind of in 2019. More so, I think he looks at it like, we can run the ball on the Eagles. If you go look at their past few games, they've given up triple digits on the ground, I think, in like 4 or 5 straight games. I think Kyle's like, if we can do that, number one, we control the clock, right? We dictate the pace of the game. We limit their possessions, but also then we can use our play action to make some chunk plays and get the ball down the field. And it's not all going to be on Brock's shoulders. So that combination of being able to control time of possession, keep the Eagles offense on the sideline, that's massive. I don't know which side I should be on. Should I be on one? Pick one. Pick one. I'm going to go right in the middle. But the combination of that, the control and the limiting Jalen Hurts, I feel like is really the game plan that Kyle Shanahan is going to want to go with. I don't know what happened, but I hope he comes back soon. I don't even know if I'm still on, but the counter's still going, so I'll just keep talking. By the way, let me sneak in a shameless plug. Please follow me on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, everywhere, at Stats on Fire. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Peter, you're back. Oh, he can't hear me. Good. He didn't hear my shameless plugs for all my social channels. But yes, please do follow me there. Another thing in this game that I worry about is what's Brock going to do under pressure? He was under pressure, like we said, 50% of the time, basically, a little less than that, but about 50% against the Cowboys. Is he going to be able to function really against the Eagles if he's under that kind of pressure, especially if they can get pressure with 4? Because then they're going to do to the 49ers what the 49ers do to other teams, which is get pressure with 4, have 7 back in coverage, and then good luck trying to find somebody open. We didn't really see the scrambling Brock Purdy that we've kind of seen in other games, and I think it's just because the Cowboys were so fast. But the Eagles are fast too, so I don't know that we're going to be able to see that this week either. So if he's not going to be able to scramble around and the Eagles are going to be able to get pressure with 4, Kyle's going to have to dial up something. He's going to have to be in his bag.
Yeah, he is definitely going to have to be in his bag. And sorry, I blinked out. Like all of a sudden the power kind of blinked in the.
Oh no, that's all
like
right.
I live in Houston, so like we've been having bad weather all day. But yeah, I don't know what happened there. Like
it's okay. I just plugged my socials everything the whole time, so
yeah.
Don't feel bad. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're well. Hey, I'm here for you. Like, I mean, but appreciate you keeping going. Yeah, I feel like that as far as the game plan goes, Kyle is absolutely, he's going to want to run the ball because the Eagles, that's the one thing. If you look at their statistics, that's the one thing that they're not great at. And I think,
yes,
but I think it's more about, they're trying to blow your doors off with the pass rush, and they're just going to make sure that you don't get to pass the ball. And if they can stop your run, great. Plus, we're gonna kill you with time of possession because we're gonna run, and eventually you're gonna punt a couple of times, like because they have so many good guys on the back end. But I think the one weakness in this team is their linebackers, and I think that might be something that Kyle wants to take advantage of with said Kittle and with these running backs, CMC, like maybe even those short crossers. I that's the one chink in the armor that I see that we can probably take advantage. Now, Kyle, like we know that Kyle likes to run his offense to take advantage of the defense's responsibilities. So everything that I'm saying might not come to fruition because Kyle, as we all know, Kyle doesn't do anything that we say he should do. He just kind of does his thing, and if it works out, great. If not, we'll pivot in the middle of the game when we need it to the most. But yeah, I think that this game plan is going to be very important for them to get out early. It's going to be really important for them to score. Not like in this Cowboys game, they're not going to be able to do that in this game. I think that this team, this Eagles team, is not going to give up the ball easily, and it's not going to be turnover. It's not going to be a big turnover game. I don't think it's just going to be. It's going to be blow for blow. That's why I named this show "The Slobbernocker," is because it's going to be physical on physical, and whoever blinks first is going to lose. But what will there be? Do you think there's going to be a focal point, a person that they're going to end up taking advantage of throughout this game, or is it going to be more of just the Purdy spread it around whoever's hot at the time?
Well, if the linebackers really are the area where Kyle wants to attack, and I mean, generally that's where he does his most damage is over the middle third of the field. He'll spam George Kittle. He'll give him 12, 13, 15 targets if he thinks it's going to work. I think you're going to see a lot of Kittle over the middle. I think you're going to see a lot of deep ins to Debo and Ayuk. I'd love to see some more deep passes to Debo Samuel. And I'm not talking like 30, 40 yards down the field. I'm talking like 8, 10 yards down the field. If you go look, his average depth of target is like 3 yards or 4 yards. It's crazy to me. And I keep saying about Debo, he's going to break the first tackle. Doesn't matter who it is, he's going to break it. Yeah. Throw it to him deeper down the field so that first tackle that he breaks is a corner or a safety, and then you can get a huge play rather than having to break the tackle of a defensive lineman or a linebacker. They got to get him the ball further down the field, and hopefully they can do that over the middle a couple of times. And if they do, that's going to open up everything else for their offense. They got to find a way to generate offense. I don't like Kyle when he has to navigate these 19 to 12 type games. I don't think that game management is his strength in those situations. I get very nervous when that happens.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that they just need to try something different with Debo, period. Like I agree. Whether it be deep, whether it be a deep crosser or something like some of the same routes that they use Ayuk for, like just to change it up, because what we don't want is for teams to, especially for the Eagles, to just be keying on, okay, well, we know that Debo is going to get the ball here, here, and here. So if he lines up here, he's probably going to get the ball here. And if he goes this way, he's probably going to get the ball here. That's absolutely, we don't need the familiarity, the predictability, as sometimes Kyle has been accused of being a little vanilla, and we don't need that. This is not the game. And we'll talk a little bit about Kyle later, but yeah, this is not the game for that. I think that he needs to pull out some wrinkles in this game and just get some different looks going, because you're going to need that, not just for this game. If they get past this game, they're definitely going to need it for whoever they get in the AFC, because those teams, either one of those teams is, I mean, they're really good. I think they're probably equal to the Eagles, but but let's transition into Kyle. Has Kyle learned anything from these past playoff failures? And
I don't think so.
Yeah.
He said something this week that absolutely drove me up the wall. I'm not sure if you saw it.
I know what you're going to say too. Like,
go ahead and say it though. He was talking about the drive before halftime against the Cowboys, which, if you recall, it was 6-6 in the second quarter. And the 49ers get the ball back late in the second quarter, and there's a minute and 15 seconds left on the clock, and they had 2 timeouts at the 28-yard line. And Kyle said, Well, the number one thing we weren't going to do is give the ball back to them before the half. We liked where the score was. He actually said that. He
Yeah,
was
I couldn't believe
thrilled
that.
that it was 6-6. He was totally fine with it. And his number one priority there was not scoring points. No. It was just don't give the ball back to the Cowboys. That's infuriating to me. Why would you ever in a football game, when you don't have the lead, say, we're not going to try and score? I could see if they were at the 2-yard line with no timeouts and 30 seconds left. Yeah, I get it. Not at the 30-yard line with 2 timeouts and 1 minute and 15 seconds. That's absurd, especially because you don't know what's going to happen in the second half. And as it happened in this game, the Niners didn't touch the ball until about 9.5 minutes left in the third quarter. So Kyle Shanahan voluntarily gave up trying to score at the end of the second and then didn't touch the ball for almost half of the third. That's backwards to me.
Yeah, it was terrible time management. I'm sitting there. That was the one part of the game. The one part of the game where I'm sitting there on my couch, just I'm watching. I was like, what? I go to my wife, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, he ran it twice in a row, and there's barely a minute left, and you've got Purdy. It's not like you're just gonna throw chunk plays down the field. Like it's and they hadn't been giving that up all game long. So I was just wondering what was the real game plan? I think that's what he said for the media. I think he does that a lot, like to make excuses for his kind of his gaffes and like his brain farts, if you will. Like during the game, I think sometimes he gets too much into his head and he doesn't take the obvious answer. Like and sometimes the obvious answer is just the best one. It's not all about being the smartest guy in the room. It's just not about that. Like it's just about doing that. Sometimes you have better players than the other team does.
It
And
was
I would,
just it was so weird. I'm sorry to cut you off,
yeah, no
but
worries.
I don't understand why he just automatically defaulted to the worst case scenario. Oh, we're going to give them the
Yeah.
ball back. They're going to score. Then they're going to score again. It's like, no, what if you scored, Kyle? Like, what if
You,
you went down the field? You're the offensive guy. Lean into your strength. I think that sometimes he coaches in his fears. And
mhm,
it's not a good look. And Brock has been very good at getting points before the end of the half. If you go back and look, he's done it 4 or 5 times in his 7
mhm.
starts. It's not like he struggled in that area.
But the offense was struggling in the first half,
Yes.
right? So what it looked like to me, was that he went into his Jimmy Garoppolo mode.
Yep.
And it was like he had a flashback and he had Jimmy Garoppolo out there. And okay, I'm running the Jimmy game plan at the end of the half. Like I just don't want anything bad to happen. And I'm just gonna be super conservative. We just want to get to the half where we're at and not worse. And you can't at some point, you're going to have to Kyle is gonna have to come out of his shell and he's going to have to take some chances because a guy named Andy Reid was called a disappointment for years and years and years for Philadelphia. He could not get over the hump for different reasons, but the premise is the same. And like it wasn't until he got to KC and he started really taking those chances, and of course he got Mahomes, but but I digress. It was you can see it now. He has so much confidence in his offense, and he just trusts that his guys are better than yours. And that's but I wish Kyle would have that confidence sometimes.
And the frustrating thing is like Kyle's good at it too when he wants to be, right? Week
Exactly.
13 against Miami, they scored with 4 seconds left, touchdown in the second quarter. Week 14, the next week, they scored a touchdown with 15 seconds left in the second quarter. Week 15, they scored a touchdown with 47 seconds left in the second quarter. And week 18, they did it with 19 seconds left in the second quarter. Like, so when he wants to, they can do it. So why would you voluntarily say, we don't want to this time? That's insane.
Yeah, it absolutely is insane, but it is beautiful, gross mind that is Kyle Shanahan. He is like the epitome of the man. I don't even have a word for what Kyle does to us, to the fans. because we've been calling him this genius forever, and I truly think he is a genius. Like I never want to get rid of Kyle. I think that he is the culture that he brought and how they built him and Lynch built this team together. I love it. I don't ever want it to go away. I just want him to learn. I just want him to learn, and I want him to I just want him to learn, and I want him to get to a point and get over the hump, because I think once he gets over the hump, it's curtains for the league. I think it's curtains. Like once if Kyle Shanahan with a killer instinct is, you can forget, everybody can forget about everything they think about football.
Well, it's funny because we were talking about that moment in the Seahawks game where Debo's leg gets twisted and Kyle's out on the field and he's mad. Joe Staley did an interview on KMBR on that Monday, and what he said was, he's like, at that point, I knew what was coming next. I knew Kyle was going to run the ball down their throat and he was going to take 2 shots of play action, and that's exactly what happened. He ran it 5 or 6 straight times after they twisted Debo's leg. They got into the end zone, and the next possession, they went shot play, and Debo took it 74 yards for the touchdown. Like, when he wants to be, when he just gets mad, he dials it up and he's as aggressive as anybody in the league. It's just, it seems like it takes something to kind of bring that out of him. It doesn't just come out in the normal flow of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it doesn't. But when it does, I'm telling you, it's over for the league. So with that being said, we're going to get to I'm going to ask you to put it on wax. What's your win-loss prediction for this game?
I hate to say it because it pains me, because nothing stinks like the start of the offseason. But I have to pick the Eagles to win the game. I do. I picked them to make the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. I just think they have the most complete team. They're relatively healthy for this time of year. And I know people don't want to acknowledge this, but the 49ers are on their 3rd string rookie quarterback. It's not Trey Lance with a full season under its belt. It's Brock Purdy in his 8th career start. I mean, no disrespect to Brock. He's been better than anybody thought he could be, but I just think that the Eagles, they just have a big green freaking winning machine there. What are they, 15-1, I think, in their last 16 with Jalen Hurts? It's like, it's an insane number. So I got to go Philly. I will go 28-21, around there. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I just think they're too good almost everywhere.
And normally, I almost went there. But I am going to go full homer.
Yes.
And gonna go 49ers. I'm going to go 49ers 25, Eagles 21. And the only reason it's straight being a homer, and I'm trying to speak it into existence, like, and that's really what it comes down to. But hey, Rob, I really appreciate you coming on today. I know everybody that's watching the show loved having seen you on the show. One more time, like, why don't you tell them where they can find you on the socials and your YouTube channel?
So you can search for me on YouTube at Stats on Fire. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitch. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, obviously. That's where our shows are going to live right now. Trying to get a podcast network up and running. It's taken a little time, but as soon as I do that, I will let everybody know. But for now, just at Stats on Fire whenever you think of me, and you'll find me everywhere.
Awesome. And once again, you can find this show. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're also on anywhere where you can get your audio podcast. So if you don't feel like looking at my face, great. You can listen to my voice on the audio version. I don't care where you get it, just get it. But once again, hey, Rob, appreciate having you on. And hey, we're always finish the show with a Go Niners.